I've had times where, so I had to do a year full of clinicals, 1,800 hours of unpaid work as a graduation requirement. One of those clinicals, I had to be there around 5:30, 6 in the morning at the ICU over at Leahy Hospital. But I had already started Tuesdays at Bijou, and Wednesday morning I have to be there at 5:30, 6 a.m. and be ready to go over patient profiles with the doctor that I'm working under. So that what I would do is go out to Bijou Tuesday, 2:05 hits, DJ's off, lights are on, people are leaving. That's when I leave. Go home by 2:30. I'm in bed asleep. At 5:30 I would wake up. By 6 I'll be at Leahy. I come home at 3:30, take a nap, get up and do the work for my pharmacy clinic because we'd have homework or patient profile. I need to do updates. I need to review. So that's when I would do it. Get dinner, go to sleep on Wednesdays, and then Thursday onto Friday, same schedule.
Today we got a Boston legend on. We got Uncle Juba on. Thank you very much for your time today, man.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
You ever done a podcast before?
A podcast, no. So this is new for me.
You
It's a new
were
experience.
you were just speaking though the other day, right? You were on a panel.
Yes. A friend of mine who I actually met online, he reached out to me about, he was doing a panel called Minds with Business for entrepreneurs in Boston. So he asked me to be on it, and I did, and it was a great experience.
What were you talking about mainly?
I talked a little bit about my experience as an entrepreneur. A lot of the other people were talking about how they started. So that's what I talked about and how and why I got into it.
So you've been talking about, you're an entrepreneur. Kind of talk about, what that's looked like for you over the past few years.
Being an entrepreneur, I didn't realize it at first. Everybody was talking, especially during COVID. Everybody was talking about being their own boss. They're, starting their own business and things like that. But while a lot of people don't realize, and that's one of the things that I talked about a couple of days ago, was being an entrepreneur just means you have to be your own, photographer, promoter. You market for your own things, social media. You also do your own accounting, everything like that. All your finances, you have to do it on your own because starting out, you don't have the budget to pay a third party to do these things. So that was one of the things. And also, finding the right idea, executing it correctly. Sometimes you might have a great idea, but the execution is really what matters. So it's just these things, we've had a lot of great ideas. My friends and I sat down, just like this, and we came up with great ideas, but we never executed them because we just didn't have the right tools or resources.
What was the first, bring it back to the beginning, venture or entrepreneurial project that you tackled, or the first taste of, business or entrepreneurship that you had?
So back in high school, we did comedy books, and my dad used to give me them when he traveled. So at some point, a lot of my friends or a lot of people in school wanted the same ones. So what I would do is when my dad traveled, I would have him ship a box of one of those for me, and I just would flip them to the people in my school. And that was where it all started. Since then, the first real entrepreneur, company and everything, was I worked with one of my very good friends and roommate. We used to live together for a couple of years. We did a genetic counseling company, especially after COVID. A lot of people, were talking about more focusing on health, telehealth, things like that. So we decided to do something about it. And pharmacogenomics has been a thing in the US since 2001. So we decided to get into the market. But that's one of the issues that we had also, was we didn't know how to execute a startup. And that's when I decided to work with a different startup. I was actually the second employee in a startup in Boston. And we could talk about this later on, but that was how it really all started with being an entrepreneur, starting my own business, things like that.
So most of it's started in school, kind of just hustling, just naturally, right? And then got into the more medical space, right? Yeah. Where did the other stuff and the nightlife, the entertainment, the hospitality stuff that is also a part of your life, how did that come into the picture?
So I've always liked having a good time. I like enjoying my time with my friends, going out, things like that. At some point, Bijou, the manager, is a good friend of mine, and he reached out and he said, we're always there, why not? And one of my buddies actually started working as a promoter there. So I said, I'm always there anyway, so let's do it. And that's how it all started. You know, I just didn't really invite anybody random. I just started inviting people I used to go out with, have a good time with, people I want to see out. And that's how promoting started. And now 3 years later, you know, I have great parties. I've thrown great parties. My first solo event was actually with Evan Abbott. That was the first time we rented out the club. We
Friend of the
decided to throw an
pod,
event.
Evan Abbott.
Yeah.
Shout
Like,
out
honestly,
Evan.
like not really. He's ducking us, bro. We gotta get him on.
Yeah. When
I
was-
love
when
working
was
with
that
Evan.
event?
This was Mother's Day 2 years ago. I remember it because it was Mother's Day, so it was really hard to sell, but we ended up doing it. We had 6 tickets sold at 1 p.m. the day of the event. So I don't know if you guys know Waleed, so I reached out to Waleed and I'm like, listen, bro, you know, you've been where I am 10, 12 years ago. How do I do this? Like, you know, I got 6 tickets the day of the event. This is my first event. I can't have it fail. So he said, you know, you go out to a lot of people's other parties, you support everybody. Why don't you call them up? So that's exactly what I did. Evan and I sat down in a room and cold called everybody. Hey, remember when I came to your event a month ago? Yeah. All right. I would like you to come to mine tonight. We lost money at the door. We gave a whole lot of complimentary tickets, but we ended up having 480 people in the room by midnight.
How did you, like, what do you think that one event kind of taught you about business or even just life in general, kind of adapting to, you know, when things aren't going your way, but ultimately like turning it into a success?
Things could go wrong. Set your expectations at a somewhere real, because, you know, an event like that, we're expecting. So personally for me, whenever, you know, if I'm expecting 30 people to come to an event, then I'm really expecting 20. Because life could happen. A lot of people could, you know, last minute changes, last minute plans. And, you know, so when I tell you, you know, if my room fills 500 people, then I'm inviting 800.
Because like worst case scenario, you just have a line out the door, like waiting for one.
Exactly.
Out. Yeah.
So you can never go. That's a good problem to have. The bad problem to have is it's midnight and the room is empty. So that's where it all started.
So where did you go? Like, how did you go from that event to last night? We were out with you, you know, just low key Seaport Wednesday night, nothing crazy. But you were telling me how, you know, later on in your career as throwing events, whatever, like you got to the point where you were selling events that would sell out in 5 minutes, and the tickets would have basically a secondary value and a resale value on a secondary market. What did the, you know, growth of that look like, going from, you know, selling 6 tickets day of, or having 6 tickets sold day of, to, you know, getting to that point? You know, the lessons you've learned, you know, that whole process.
So all about, for me, it's all about reputation, right? So when people come to my parties, they have a good time. I know Ben Lloyd said on the podcast that he creates FOMO. So that's also my motto. The way my business model, when it comes to promoting, you come out with me, you have a great time, you have a great night. Now, when I tell you a month later that, hey, I'm having an event, you should come by, it's going to be a great time. The only thing I left you with is about the event from a month ago. You had a great time. You know this one is going to be a good time. So that's when you reach out to your friends. And also, my goal after the event, for the whole week after the event, all you're talking about to your friends is how much of a great time you had. So I do EVA, the event that you're talking about is EVA. We do a day party on Saturdays, mainly for the student clientele. We're looking to do a couple pop events throughout the summer for our local clientele here, but the room fits about 90 people. And I've had people come up to me at the door and they say, you know, the tickets normally go from $5 to $20. I've had people come up to me and say, I will pay you $100 to go into this party right now. The answer was always no, because I don't want to take away from first of all, I don't want to take away from the space that's inside. People who paid in time, got their tickets in time. I want to make sure they have a good time. Once the room gets too packed, then nobody's having a good time. Second of all is just when that person gets rejected at the door for 5x the ticket price, he is going to be talking about it. Now that's free marketing for me. And that's why we, you know, also the tickets sell 5 minutes before. 5 minutes after we release the tickets, is because even if I can't make it, somebody's going to rebuy that ticket for even more. So why not buy it directly right after the ticket release?
Yeah, that kid who tried to pay $100 to get in, he's gonna go, online immediately to buy tickets for the next week.
Exactly.
Right?
So next week, he took my phone number. Next week, I saved him a ticket even. But now when he comes, he's gonna feel like VIP because I don't know him. I just met him, and I saved him a ticket for the next week because I knew he wanted to come to the party badly.
In the hospitality industry, like talk about consistency and like operating with that. How important is it just to be consistent with like everything you do?
It's more than important. My mentor, my bosses, everybody tells me, after the night out, I tell my team after every night out, text your clients, see how last night went. If they had a good time, why did they have a good time so we can keep doing it? If they didn't, if they had an issue, what was the problem? Let's resolve it. Next time they come in, we want to make sure they don't have the same issue or any issue at all. Now, being consistent is good, but also sometimes it's not great. But it depends in what you're talking about in the nightlife, right? So if I'm being consistent with the same event every single week, or every time I throw the same event, then people will get bored of it, especially in Boston where there is not much really going on. But if I'm consistent with things like, taking care of people, being hospitable, the customer service aspect. Remember, we're an industry, customer service industry. So it's just putting a smile on your face doesn't really hurt. So it's really that simple being in the hospitality industry. Just leave the personal at home. Once you walk into work, that's work. So once I walk in through that door, you know what I mean? It's different. If I have issues, my issues, I leave them at home. If I don't feel like smiling tonight, I'll stay at home.
No, that's like I think that's like really important because like even though you might have shit going on in your life, like people are going out and they're looking
Everybody does.
They're looking to go out and have a good time, and then like, you're kind of in the business of making sure that people are happy. So if you're pissing in their Cheerios, they're not gonna want to come out and they're not gonna want to go to Juba's events anymore.
Exactly. Like if it's your birthday and you're coming out to celebrate, or graduation, or bachelor party, whatever it is, and if I'm not having a good time with you, and you can tell, people can see your vibe, especially if it's people that go out with you on the regular. So just don't do it. Just don't do it. I tell my guys all the time. I tell my friends told me, and I get called out for it. Sometimes people come up to me and they're like, what's going on? What's wrong? Sometimes there's a lot on my mind. Something went wrong at work. You know what I mean? It's just, life happens. But it's always good to have people in your corner that will be like, take a step back, or what's going on.
Good to have people keeping you in check.
Yeah, I feel like it's too like a little bit like you're providing for other people when you're doing this, right? When you're choosing to work in this space and to create business opportunities here. It's a little bit selfish almost, even if it's someone's birthday, right? And you just let your own problems and your mood like drag down the vibe of their event, right?
Well, think about it this way, right? When you have a 9 to 5 job, it's the same thing. When you have a task to finish, you have a deadline. I don't care if you're not feeling well. Not me, but like your boss doesn't care if, you're feeling a little down, whatever. They want the job done. So that's just how it is. Our job is to make sure you're having a good time when you're out. Whether you're my friend, whether you're a client, whether you're just somebody who decided to walk in. So that's where it comes in about being consistent with the hospitality issue.
This being it's a good point, like bringing this up, just saying a job, right? This is a job, and like I think a lot of people underestimate hospitality as a job overall, like the whole industry. Talk about taking that seriously, and it's more than just, oh, you're going to the club, you're going to have fun, but you're really taking it seriously and making it into a job.
Don't get me wrong, I have a great time. Yeah. But at the same time, some events I do have to take it just like a job. A lot of things could go wrong, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing, who I'm with. I have to step away and take care of that issue. We did events where the DJ's late, the opening DJ's late. Now I have a line outside, and I have no DJ on in in the booth.
So you got to step up there and just start spinning yourself, or
I mean, sometimes it depends on how long. We have a preset like mix for things like that because we learned from our problems in the past. But sometimes if a DJ cancels last minute before the event, you just have to, you gotta go call up your other friends, call up the other DJs, and those are the people. So, being consistent with everybody. I have 2 people that I know 100%. If I call them up, they will always come through for me and DJ unless they're out of Boston.
How did you kind of like cement yourself like as the figure that is like, Uncle Juba in Boston? Like your events are consistent. People always know they're going to have fun. Like what kind of sets you aside from the other promoters that you see in Boston? Because like nowadays you see a lot of these kids, they're a dime a dozen. They're all trying to sell the same tables, whatever they're doing. How did you stand out from the rest?
Well, Bijou outside of any other venue in the city, it's different. The way the team works, it's literally a family. We all work together. If I have issues, if I have an event, we all push each other's events. And if I have an event that's not selling, that's when I reach out to my team and I say, hey guys, I need some help today. And that's when you see everybody coming through. But also the way the branding works, right? So branding is everything. The way I branded my promotion group or, my promo service is Uncle Juba. So now you walk around, a lot of people don't even know my real name. A lot of people don't know Juba. They know Uncle. Like I've seen a lot of people come up to me outside, Bijou, for example, and they're like, oh, do you know where Juba is?
They've asked
They've asked me multiple times. It happens all the time. Like sometimes I'm standing there and they go up to one of the guys that work at Bijou outside with me. And they're like, oh, do you know where Juba is? So he just looks at me and laughs. Like, you know what I mean? So that's when I step up. I'm like, how can I help you? Networking doesn't hurt at all. I go to everybody's events. People reach out to me. For example, you texted me yesterday. You said, are you out? I said, no. You said, I'm out with the guys. Why don't you stop by? That's when I said, okay, cool. And you never know who you're going to meet. And like I said earlier, being nice really doesn't hurt. I told you guys this yesterday as well. Like having issues with people takes a lot more out of you than not. So that's where it comes in. I feel like a lot of the other people take it more and, not as a job. They just do it because whether they're going in for free, whether it's things like that, it's a little different for me. I actually enjoy doing it. I actually enjoy making sure other people are having a good time. Event planning is like, my hobby. And I did a lot of events, a lot of graduation events this past season. Last year was the first time I did graduation events. Last summer I did an engagement party. We do a lot of corporate events. So things like that, that's where it defers me because I actually got into my own space. I feel like a lot of these people, a lot of these other guys, they're just promoting one club, one room, whatever it is. So I try to do things that are different from other people because that's the only way you're actually going to, get your nickel up.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
That's good.
What do you think about Boston nightlife as a whole? It's a very like interesting city. It's there's plenty of good times to be had, but it's not like a major market like you go to Miami or New York or LA. And just what are your general thoughts on it?
On the podcast before, somebody had said, Roy, a good friend of mine, he said, people come to Boston for education and medical. You go to Miami to party. You go to New York for a weekend out. You go to nice dinner parties, whatever it is. Boston, it's a student city. So a lot of people ask me, why do they close at 2? Because, it's a big student city. But also the nightlife in Boston, I always like to call Boston the small, big city. Because I guarantee you, no matter which venue you go into, if you're a city guy, you will run into somebody you know.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's just how it works. I like Boston nightlife. A lot of people don't. Ironically, I don't like Miami nightlife. I like to go, have dinner, enjoy a good time, and then go to sleep at 2, 3 a.m. And then in the morning, just go to the beach. But
how come you like Boston then? Like, what about Boston kind of gave you the environment to thrive and kind of become this, head honcho promoter?
Say that one more time. I missed the last part.
So like how is Boston different than Miami? Like how does Boston's overall nightlife atmosphere allow you to thrive? Like you don't like
less
Miami?
options.
Less options.
Less options. There's not much going on in
Yeah, there's
Boston.
just a handful of clubs, right?
There's just a
There's
handful
not-
of clubs. You know the right people. It's just if you know the right people, you're set in Boston.
Yeah, we've been finding that out more and more. We've been talking about this the last couple of weeks.
That's
So,
just how Boston works. Miami is just too big, too many things going on at once.
it's overwhelming sometimes.
In Boston, you have the same theme. If you, for example, you get an all-white outfit, you can use it 4 times in a week because every club in the city is doing, it's that season. Also, one of the things that helped me in Boston that there is not much going on because I could do things that are different in Boston where people haven't seen. I'm looking to do a party dinner soon, sometime this summer. Talking to Waleed about it actually, so we'll see how that goes. You guys should definitely come. It's gonna be a
That's
good time.
dope.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, for sure.
We will be there.
I think like I've noticed like I turned 21 in February,
Oh wow.
so I'm young. I'm a youngin, but like I think Boston like all of what you're saying. It's like it's just small. You like go out. You go out once, meet a couple people. You'll see them every single night, like for the rest of your life when you go out in Boston.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's also there's like a Bijou crowd, there's a Cavo crowd, there's
Yeah.
a Marielle crowd, and there's the Grand crowd, but then also there's like that one, or I guess one group of multiple circles that you see them everywhere you go,
Everywhere.
and that's when those are the people that know the right people because they know exactly where to go on any given night.
We're probably all like thinking of like rattling
Yeah,
off
we all
names
have
in our
faces
head
in
right
our-
now, and we're all thinking of the same names.
I think too. It's like if you also show up and you're cool and you are just genuine positive person like and you're just like a good vibe to have around. Like it's pretty easy to become connected in Boston and like become liked. It's not like Miami where you have to just be like the guy that's like spending like tens of thousands of dollars every single night, right? You don't have to do that in Boston.
So the way in Boston is the way I operate, for example, is if I wanted to work with somebody, I don't know them personally, but I go on their Instagram and I see Jack is a mutual. That's when I reach out to Jack, say, okay, why don't we go grab dinner, whatever it is, talk it out. Boom, there you go, business done. So that's how Boston works. I feel like you can't do that in New York or Miami or LA. It's just that's why I like Boston.
Do you use Instagram like for networking? Like, is that your networking online tool?
Instagram is my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Instagram is really my LinkedIn. Well, when it comes to nightlife, yeah.
Talk about what you like about Instagram, what you just use it for, the ways you're able to utilize it to strengthen your network.
So I use Instagram and WhatsApp mainly for my nightlife. I have a group chat that has all the event updates. So if we have like, let's say tables are sold out, one table opens at 9 p.m. the night of. That's what I text the group chat. I'm like, hey, we have a table open. People in my group chat like coming to my events, like getting the updates. And that's how I use WhatsApp. Instagram, same thing. Whenever we're about to launch an event, I post it on there. I post it on my story. A lot of people react, whatever it is. If I'm thinking about doing an event and I want to see if it's worth doing, or if I want to see if people are actually going to buy the tickets to this event, especially if it's like a one-time thing, that's when I go on Instagram because, like I said earlier, I promote to my friends and I promote to people that I want to have a good time with. And 90% of the time, they're on my Instagram.
I feel like Instagram's just built to be the best social networking app as well, just because of like the way you see your mutual followers. It's like you said, followed by, and you can see, oh, I have 32 mutuals with this person. Like they're definitely like, in a similar space, right? Or it's like, why don't I already know
So
them?
sometimes I get followed like randomly, or I follow people randomly. And to a lot of people, that's like a strange concept. But like I said, I use it just like people would use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn, you want to work with somebody, you just follow them. So, or connect with them. That's what I do on my Instagram. So, especially if people follow me and we have a couple mutuals, odds are I probably met you at some point, especially if your bio says Boston. So I just follow back. That's how I use Instagram. That's why I like it. Also, I keep up with, having a busy schedule it's tough to keep up with people's lives, especially my friends. I have a lot of friends that I don't talk to on the daily, believe it or not, but I talk to them even once a month, and they're my closest friends. So I use Instagram to like send each other reels and stuff like that, just to make sure, okay, you're doing well. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of funny too. It's like something the generation before us doesn't understand is like how we use social media to stay in touch with each other. Because like, you know, there's like one of my buddies that, you know, I grew up playing hockey with or something, and I'll be on the phone with my dad and I'll be like, oh yeah, you know, like fucking, I don't know, this kid, you know, this kid just got engaged, or, you know, this kid's family, they're in Florida or whatever, or this kid's grandmother died. And he's like, how do you know? Did he text you? I'm like, no, dad, I just saw his story. And he's like, oh, what's that?
I feel like Instagram is their Facebook.
My parents don't even know how to use that. My parents are like phone call people. But
My parents to this day only phone call me. I'm trying to teach them. I'm like, listen, sometimes I cannot take phone calls. Like, that's normal nowadays. So you can just text me.
not happening.
Still trying to get the grasp on it.
They gotta send you voice messages now.
Not even.
Yeah.
Not even. They just, I mean, they know how to use it, like social media and everything. They just,
Choose not
they
to.
want something, they want it done now.
Fair enough. I like phone calls though. They're like very effective.
Phone calls are
to your
good.
point.
Phone calls are good.
But
Sometimes they're too.
I mean, for a little while, I used to post actually on my Instagram because I used to get a lot of phone calls about stupid questions. So, and yes, there is such thing as stupid question. So I would post on my social media, and I'm like, if it's textable, don't call me.
I think I remember you posting those a while ago.
Like,
But
especially like if it's 11 p.m. and I'm inside the club. Like I just posted inside the club.
don't call me.
Sometimes they call me. I'm like, where should I park? You know what I mean? It's just
Wherever you want, pal.
like anywhere you want. Just
Can you actually like talk on the phone inside the club?
no.
Can you actually hear?
No.
Ready? Text me.
Yeah.
That's normally how my conversation goes while I'm inside the club.
That's like I don't understand. Like I'll see people in a club like on the phone. I'm like, what? Like every time I've tried to do that, like I cannot hear what's going on.
No way.
It's way too
No
loud.
way.
You can't even hear yourself think. You can't even hear your friends talk right next
I'll
to
throw
you.
it on speaker and like put it to my ear, but then they can't hear like anything. So
Even with like the voice isolation right now, the new feature on the iPhone,
ass. It's
nothing.
terrible.
I mean, you're inside the club. Like, there's no way.
Yeah. Why? Also, like you shouldn't have to like you shouldn't want to like be on the phone. So like there's no reason to like make that. But
For me, it's a little different. But yeah,
sure,
I get
yeah,
what you
of
mean.
course. But then you just text.
Well, I try to explain that to a lot of people.
Where do you draw the line? Like when you're out, it's like, okay, I'm here to have a good time. I need to cultivate an environment that my friends are having fun in. I need to be present, you know, I need to be having fun as well. But, you know, I'm at work right now. I need to make sure that X, Y, and Z gets done. I need to make sure that we don't have these problems. Like, where do you draw that line of like, okay, I'm having fun and okay, now I need to work?
So it just depends on the event that I'm at. If it's an event that, it's my event, I planned it, everything. If it's a nightclub event, for example, I try to wait until at least 60% of the people are inside before I start, drinking, hanging out, things like that. But if it's like, if I'm planning an event for somebody else and it's a graduation, birthday, whatever it is, I try not to drink until the last like 30 minutes of the event. At that point, everything that could have gone wrong.
Would have gone wrong at that point.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Did you learn that over time, or like the first couple of times you were like doing events and stuff, you might have had some times where you went a little too crazy while you were kind of on the clock?
So I never went too crazy, but there has been times where, I started drinking because my friend's birthday or whatever it was. Yeah. And, we're all doing shots, we're all doing drinks before, or we even did a pregame before the event even started. And then at some point I realized that I should probably stop now, just in case anything goes wrong, because things have gone wrong in the past and things do all the time, especially in the nightlife. So that's when I realized I'm like, I need to stop. So I stopped for a couple of hours, whatever it is, walked around, made sure everything's all set. And that's when I go back to my friends and have more,
That's good.
enjoy the rest of the night.
So how do you balance everything, right? We talked about the nightlife. We talked about a little bit of your start, but you have a lot of other things going on in your life. Probably more you're probably more focused on, the whole other side of your life that you can talk about, and other business ventures. How do you balance those things, and what else is it that you're working on?
I wish I could tell you that it's fully balanced. It's not. I just do it. Somebody once told me if it takes less than 60 seconds, do it now. So that's what I try to do. If it takes less than 60 seconds, do it now. That's how I get things done, whether it's nightlife related, whether it's pharmacy related, whether it's family related. Um, I've had times where, so I had to do a year full of clinicals, 1,800 hours of unpaid work as a graduation requirement. One of those clinicals, I had to be there around 5:30, 6 in the morning at the ICU over at Leahy Hospital. But I had already started Tuesdays at Bijou, and Wednesday morning I have to be there at 5:30, 6 a.m. and be ready to go over patient profiles with the doctor that I'm working under. So that what I would do is go out to Bijou Tuesday, 2:05 hits, DJ's off, lights are on, people are leaving. That's when I leave. Go home by 2:30. I'm in bed asleep. At 5:30 I would wake up. By 6 I'll be at Leahy. I come home at 3:30, take a nap, get up and do the work for my pharmacy clinic, because we'd have homework or patient profile. I need to do updates. I need to review. So that's when I would do it. Get dinner, go to sleep on Wednesdays, and then Thursday onto Friday, same schedule.
So how did you not get burnt out? Because I mean, like, even after a night like last night, like this morning, I was hurting. Like, how did you go from like just around the clock being up basically 24/7? How did you manage school and clubbing and just your relationships?
Two things. One is I try to pace myself when I'm out. Even like last night, for example, I started a little bit late. I cut myself a little early just because I knew this morning I had to be up at 7:30 with patients and everything. But one other thing is nobody goes around the clock nonstop. I have my lazy days. There have been days where I don't want to do anything. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to stay in bed, watch TV all day. So those days are really my recovery days. Sometimes they may be on Monday, sometimes they may be on a Wednesday. But as long as you give yourself a little bit of time, which I do, sometimes I call my boss and I'm like, hey, I can't come into the office today, but I'll work from home.
That's awesome. That's good. That's good that you're able to like kind of listen to your body and just like realize that, and like make sure that one thing doesn't take away too much attention from another.
Well, I learned that the hard way, right? So being in pharmacy school, I burnt myself out a little bit, and I had to take a little bit of time from pharmacy school, just so I can, reset and go back into it. And that's when I learned my lesson. And I'm like, I've invested over $250,000 into school so far. I got 1 year left. Might as well just finish it. So that's what happened.
What kind of opened your eyes to going to pharmacy school in the first place?
So I actually wanted to go to med school.
Okay.
I started off as pre-med, did my bachelor's, and then I realized I don't want to do med school anymore.
What was like kind of the thing that made you realize you didn't want to do med school anymore?
A lot of people do med school for the money. If you want to do med school for the money, don't. Do something else. There's a lot of other things that you could do, make a lot more money. But also, healthcare in the United States is just not it. We were talking about this earlier. Healthcare in Italy, for example, when you had your situation, it's free.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it's a complete opposite. They want to milk every cent out of you to make money off of you, basically. Especially if you're not, if you don't have the health insurance that's proper, I don't know, it's just tough, especially with something called PPMs. So we talked about this. You're going to hear me talk about it a lot. PPMs stand for Pharmacy Benefit Manager. And those are the people that basically determine the price of medications at the pharmacies. They're the ones who determine how much insurance is going to pay for a certain treatment.
What are some of the numbers that go into, them determining the price of a medication, or what are some of the factors that go into them determining the price of insurance?
So this is how PPMs work, ready? They decide with the pharmacy what they're going to get paid for selling this medication. But they also decide with the manufacturer of the medication how much they're going to sell it to the pharmacy. And they pocket the in-between. So that could have been done by anybody else. Also there's, you have other players, key players. You have the distributors who take it from the manufacturer and sell it. And then you have the pharmacies themselves, and then you have the insurance companies. They also determine with the insurance, or insurance tells the PBMs how much they're willing to pay for each medication. And that's why a lot of medications, because the PBM set it at such a high price, Medicare and Medicaid can't pay for it. So they're not covered by Medicaid and Medicare. You have to pay for them in cash. And that's when Mark Cuban started his pharmacy Cost Plus, to just eliminate all of these things. So Mark Cuban Cost Plus cuts out all these players. He buys the medication directly from the manufacturer. He sells it to the patient. He started off as cash only. So his business model is called Cost Plus. That's his pharmacy is called Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Pharmacy. Cost Plus is a business model that basically, it's in the name. It's just the cost plus a flat fee. Mark Cuban charges 15% profit, $3 service fee, and $5 delivery charge, or the other way around. But I was looking at some numbers actually, and I saw one of the medication. It's called omeprazole bicarbonate sodium, or sodium bicarb. That medication goes for, I think it was $1,000 for a 90-day supply. Mark Cuban sells it for 14. Sorry, he gets it for 14 from the manufacturer, which means 14 plus 15%. You're looking at about $16.25, and then plus the $3 and $5, $24.25 versus $1,000.
$975 saving right there.
Yep.
That's insane.
That's a 90-day supply, so that's for 3 months.
So he completely disrupted the whole industry.
Yes. So a lot of the medications. So right now he covers. So he started off with only 100 list of medications.
Right, okay.
That's
So like
it.
the 100 most popular medications in the
It wasn't
US
even the most
probably.
popular. It was just
Well,
things
he
that
could
he could
probably-
even cover,
yeah.
because so that's when the PPMs came in, the big ones, the big three, and CVS is actually one of them, because CVS went and bought their own PPM. They went to all these big manufacturers, they make the most money from, and they said you can't work with them.
Yeah.
A lot of insurance companies don't work with Mark Cuban's pharmacy. He just started some. You guys know Blue Shield, Blue Cross?
Yeah.
So the one in California actually just signed a contract with Mark Cuban's pharmacy. Now they're covered. So a lot of insurance companies do not. That Blue is the biggest insurance company he's working with right now.
Mark sells like directly online too, right? That's like his business
Directly
model.
online, and they have pharmacies as well. So if you ever heard of TruePill,
Yeah.
they're an online pharmacy,
Okay.
and their pharmacists are the ones really dealing with
Got
all the
it.
filling and stuff.
Okay.
This is a fairly new venture he started, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's only a few years old.
2022.
Okay, so like how come, nobody ever just like thought to do this themselves? Like how come, if it's, the healthcare has been so expensive in the US for so long, like why did it take somebody so long to kind of just think of this idea?
I'm sure somebody else thought of it. I just don't think anybody would have done it, because if they had the money to do that, not many people would take 15% profit over 1,000% profit.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good
Yeah.
way.
He already has all the money he needs.
Yeah,
In a
but
way.
there's a lot of people with more money that
Of course.
probably have thought of the idea. They just didn't want to do it because, like I said, why? And also, you build a lot of enemies doing something like that. Big pharma is a huge thing in the U.S.
It's like the mob. They don't,
Some may say it's worse.
yeah, they donate to political campaigns. They get bills passed. They force you to get certain vaccines.
And they give you drugs. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. I'm all in for a more holistic approach to things.
So one of my clinicals was on holistic approaches and stuff. It was very interesting to look into.
Yeah.
I don't know enough, but I would love to learn more.
I feel like, well, it's like it's kind of the stuff where it's like a supplement like your holistic stuff with if your issues or if your health gets to a certain point, that's when like maybe you get medicine and like traditional medicine like involved. But like I don't know, it's different for everyone too. Like I feel like there's no like one size fits all, but
I feel like also people here, or people everywhere, just if a doctor tells you to do it, you're gonna do it.
and then you're gonna think because the doctor said it, it's the right thing to do, and then
Exactly.
that's gonna heal you because the doctor
said it.
Yeah,
You know
of
what I mean?
course.
But you know how many times we had to send a prescription back to a doctor? I worked at CVS for 4 years. how many times we had to send the prescription back because it was written wrong, or he gave a similar name medication instead of a different medication. Like, these things happen, especially with residents
And a
new
lot of people
doctors.
don't catch it and they just take whatever.
Well, that's where pharmacists come in. So,
Oh,
right.
okay. Okay, I see.
So the startup that I'm working with, remember I was talking about Scriptify. So the whole thing of it is involving pharmacists more clinically. You know, I went to school for 7, 8 years. I don't want to stand. Excuse me. I don't want to stand behind a counter at CVS and just sign off medications. But also that's where I said healthcare in the U.S. is a little, excuse my French, but fucked up, because at CVS, a lot of pharmacists don't like it, whether it's CVS, Walgreens, whatever it is. They don't like it because you're standing behind a desk or behind the counter for about 10, 12, 15 years. Yes, you get really good at your job, but at the same time, 8 times out of 10, you hate your job. So when something comes in, I'm just clicking. And, companies like that only care about metrics, only care about numbers. They don't really care about the patient. So yeah, they say we have medication therapy management, and they charge you for it. Insurance does charge you for it. And you get a lot of annoying calls from all the pharmacies. But if you don't pick them up, they'll still charge you. And they will still say they were clinically involved in your treatment. And that's how it works.
So is this the startup that you used to be with, or you're still?
No, so I'm involved with them still to this day. Scriptify RX is what we called it. And
so what is the like problem that you guys are really like looking to solve?
So just to simplify it, it's a technology platform that is looking to involve pharmacists more clinically, especially with chronically ill patients. So, the population in the US has gone from over the 65 years old and over. It went up from 65% to 90 nowadays, and 6 out of 10 of those people have at least one chronic disease, and the other 4 have 2 or more. Now, when the doctors are prescribing 12, 14 medications for all these, things, for all these diseases, nobody's checking, especially not the elderly. My doctor told me to, so I'm going to take it. And a lot of these medications, for example, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Eliquis, apixaban. So it's for blood clots, thrombosis. A lot of patients, it's about, I want to say 300,000 Americans per year develop that. It was developed in 2012. This is going somewhere, I promise you. So it was developed in 2012. The patents for drugs in the US last about 20 years. So last exactly 20 years. So now that it's coming to an end and generic could be made off of that drug and it's going to be sold for a lot cheaper, 2 new companies or 3 new companies are developing a similar drug to apixaban just so they can sell it for brand, which is the actual price, the marked up price at however many thousands of dollars there is. Now, apixaban in the last year sold $14 billion. Over 20 years, I'll let you do the math.
That's $250 billion.
That's insane.
Yeah. So why would a pharmacy company not try to develop a drug that's going to be like slightly better, but then push it to all these patients and the elderly?
Wow.
So that's how it works. That's how pharmacy really works.
And so what are you guys doing like in this space?
So that's when we come in and we get involved actually like clinically and say, this drug is working just fine. You don't need to get onto new
So you
drugs
just kind of
because
tell
your
it like it
doctor
is?
told you to. Or not even that, just looking at your medications telling you, you can bring this dose down, or you need to get off this medication, or maybe try some exercise instead of this medication.
So you're trying to like help people and like trying to get them to take as few medications as possible.
And it's ironic a pharmacist would do that, right?
So I guess like kind of talk about that, like the the healthcare industry in America is, one of the biggest factors of our GDP. We spend so much on it, like every single year. But, Americans are medicated up the ass. Like you said, they're taking, dozens of medications sometimes. Like, what moral responsibility do doctors have to kind of, tell people, hey, maybe you should be taking a more holistic approach to your health?
There are doctors that do that, just not so many of them. But also because the doctors might want to.
Maybe it's not even the doctors then. Maybe
But
it's
that's
like
what I'm saying. So the doctors
politicians.
might want to, but at the same time, you have a lot of people who are in the real offices in the back telling you didn't meet your quota this year or you didn't meet your quota this month.
So it's all about money.
It's all about numbers. It's all about metrics.
So do you think that Americans are like overall like unhealthier because, big companies are pushing, all these drugs, and then because they're making so much money, they're able to donate so much money to political parties, political, foundations to get new laws passed to allow them to, keep forcing them to take these drugs? I mean, you even take like, without even,
Well, it's not just Americans. Ozempic was made by a Danish company.
Is Ozempic mainly sold in America or
I don't know where the sales are, but I would assume so. Especially for the price that it is. I don't think many.
How much is
countries can-
Ozempic?
I don't know the exact number, but it's over $1,000. I can tell you that. And it's actually you can't even get it nowadays because it's short supply. There's no supply of Ozempic, so each pharmacy gets a couple
That
boxes.
shit cannot be good for you.
Well, it's meant for diabetes. It's
Yeah.
not meant for weight loss.
Yeah.
And then they realized that
I literally
hey, this
thought
works
it-
for weight loss as well.
I've never even known that it was.
I literally thought it was a weight loss drug. I didn't.
I thought it
even
was just
know
like
it was for
like
diabetes.
famous
Nope,
like models
it's-
and shit. Like movie stars were just taking it. Like
Nope, it's a diabetes medication. That's why it was made. That's why it was developed to begin with. And then when people started on it, they realized, hey, we could use it for weight loss. And that's how they started marketing it eventually. So now it's sold.
what about like okay, so like Ozempic's super popular now. Like just like it's blown up in the media and everything like that. What about something like Adderall, right? It's like it's similar where it's for a purpose. It's for people like focusing, for people that can't focus,
Yeah.
whatever. But then now it's become this massive thing. Well, not even now, but it's like it's always become this kind of thing that's just sold to college students looking to study or people like looking to like just dial in like stuff like that. Like does the pharmaceutical like industry must obviously know about that, and they know that like the more supply they put out there, the more money they're gonna make, and like it's overall bad probably, but like they don't care, right?
So it's funny you say that because when I was in high school, I was a senior in high school, a girl got her admission to Harvard revoked because they found out she was on Adderall when she took the SATs and she wasn't prescribed it. So nowadays, Adderall is also short supply because I don't know if you guys remember this, but during COVID, there was a lot of ads on like TikTok, Instagram. If you have these symptoms, reach out to us and we'll give you Adderall. So what they did was a lot of doctors, a lot of prescribers signed up with this company. And what they did was they asked you about 8 questions, 10 questions, whatever it was, and the answers were literally all line to all these questions. So if you answer them correctly, you get a prescription.
So it's like basically the way they're marketing it. Like, hey, like, do you want Adderall? Answer
We'll
these
give it to you.
questions, and I'm assuming that these questions, it's pretty easy to figure out. Like, oh,
It's like, do you have...
do you fidget when you're in class?
Yeah, there you
like bullshit like that. It's probably pretty easy to
Damn.
figure out what answers.
Those Dodgers definitely got like cut, right? Like you're the prescribers or whatever, right?
I don't know if there were any consequences
I'm
because
sure there
technically there wasn't. I mean, technically they weren't doing anything illegal.
Really? Wow.
But I mean, they were. That's the thing, though. They weren't clinically involved in the patient's life. It was you can't prescribe Adderall after a 15-minute conversation. Prior to that, you had to go in neuro, psychological testing, all these things. But now Adderall is just prescribed like I'm prescribing Advil.
What are your thoughts on Adderall as a whole? Because like definitely there was times where I had to cram for a test in college, and I took it on a Sunday when I was at the library, but I wasn't prescribed it. Like, do you think that it's almost like a performance enhancing drug? Like, do you think that students who aren't prescribed it should be able to use it and like get an advantage on their peers? because like there might be some people who are unwilling to put that into their body, and they just have certain morals. They're not prescribed that, so like I'm gonna have a competitive advantage over that kid, right? If we study for the same amount of time, I'm gonna do better. 'cause
So I
I'm on
might be a little
Adderall.
biased because I've taken Adderall myself a few times, especially with my schedule. Sometimes, I need
You
to
have
push
to,
through.
yeah.
But is it good for you if you're not prescribed it, if you don't need it? No, because it sets the dopamine level in your brain to a certain level. Then that's when it really causes a lot of effects to you long term. But do I think the competitive advantage? Do I think it's ethical, or somebody didn't want to put something else in their body? I personally disagree with that because not everybody's case is the same. Like for example, for me, if I'm working until 2:30 in the morning and then I'm going back to work at 6 a.m. and I take an Adderall over you who just had a 10 hours sleep, is it really competitive advantage though?
Are you sure, right?
So it's just, I mean, you could see it from both sides.
Right.
I'm not going to argue that, if somebody else who's had, I don't want anything in my body, you could have gone to sleep, anything like that. I can't argue with them just because I feel like there's no right or wrong in this situation.
For sure.
I think the dopamine level, like you're saying though, that's the biggest thing that I always think about with any type of drug. It's like, or even alcohol or anything. It's like any substance that alters your like state in a good or bad way will fuck up your dopamine receptors and just like completely like just mess up your neutral and you're just like normal homeostasis and well-being. And when you go into like all these like taking crazy drugs and pharmaceuticals when you don't necessarily need it, that's like a massive, I feel like that's a massive problem.
I mean, it is a massive problem because, like you said, it changes your entire dynamic of the body.
Yeah.
And at that point, I don't want to say addicted because that's such a strong word,
Yeah.
but
Reliant.
sort of like, your focus level was at a 10, and then once you started taking Adderall and then you stopped, now it's at an 8.
Yep.
So that's when Adderall affects you long term.
Or even like you talk about like drinking, which is something that everybody does pretty much, right? It's like then when you go out, if you start drinking alcohol, even not like at a very recreational level or whatever, then you go out and you're not drinking, you're not gonna have as much fun as you do when you are.
Of course,
you're not
because
as social.
yeah,
like
it's the dopamine, the serotonin levels in your brain. That's
right?
how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's there's no avoiding that, right? There's nothing you can do to like avoid people. Like you're always gonna fucking have sugar. You're always gonna have caffeine. You're always gonna have all these like little things that like affect your life in different ways. But I mean, like keeping them under wraps or even just understanding that, I feel like is important, right?
I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. So a lot of people don't know what they're getting themselves into. So just because everybody I was hearing about is taking Adderall doesn't mean I have an exam tomorrow, I'm going to cram for it, let me take Adderall. So a lot of people don't understand if you're taking Adderall while you're studying for a week. So let's say you have a board exam coming up, you have a big exam coming up. I'm taking Adderall every single day of the week, but I don't want to take it during the exam because it's going to cause anxiety. A lot of people don't understand you have to take it during the exam because you studied on Adderall. You know how they say if you were in a room and you studied in the exam room, you're more likely to have the muscle memory and answer the same questions, things like that.
Yeah, you have to be consistent.
That's just how Adderall works.
That makes sense. So for you getting into this industry, like you obviously see all the money that's being thrown around at the highest level, right?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, like not even selfishly, but like you know that you qualify, you do everything that you can to step your foot into this industry, get your doctor's degree, do all the school, all the prerequisites, everything. You're going to be able to, make some money and like get opportunities in this. Just talk about that, like what that looks like for you, like what that looked like, going from like pre-med to the pharmaceutical route and like now, having just finished up school and everything, like what's next career wise?
So right now I work with a nonprofit in Brookline. It's a patient education nonprofit. I'm working with them until I take my board exam a couple months from now, and then I'm hoping to get into the industry, actually, the big pharma industry. A lot of people frown upon big pharma, but then I realized, if I really want to help people, am I really helping them by working in a community pharmacy? because I'm not clinically involved. I'm just getting the prescription, filling it, and sending it to them. So I could help just as many people doing that, but also at the same time, a lot of people, like I said, are talking to me about, we really want to go into the big pharma, this and that. But then at the same time, what are you doing to help people? You were telling me, what are you doing to help people? Because one of the founding members on a startup in Boston that solely helps communities about awareness about homelessness in our community. You know what I mean? So I'm a lot of people also for med schools. So a lot of people when they apply, they're like, "Oh, I want to help people. I want to help this. I want to do that." But then you look at their application, and all they have on it is volunteering at hospitals. No, you weren't trying to help people. You just wanted to get into the med school. If you really want to help people, you can go out, help people on the street, do other things than just, you know what I mean? I get it. I respect it. But at the same time, if you really mean helping people, then really do it. You don't have to talk about it, voice it out, things like that. If you want to voice it out for other reasons by, encouraging others to help out, sure. But if you're going to help people and talk about it to shame others, then you're really not.
So you think that, kind of just to kind of like summarize what you said, you think that, if you were to go work at the same CVS that you worked in, when you were in school, like you could only help like a very set number of people per day. And, like that's great. Like you're doing a very worthy job. You're working hard. Like congrats. But, like the number of people that you can help, it's capped. So if you go out and you start your own nonprofit, or you create a startup and you use like the money that you're making, from Big Pharma as a tool, like you're able to help more people like that, right?
Yes and no. So definitely the big pharma part where, you're making the money, you're investing it into helping people, whatever it is, in each way possible. But at the same time, as CVS, you're not, or any pharmacy, I don't want to just name CVS, but in any pharmacy, when you're working, like I said, you're so restricted by the metrics. You just have to keep going. You don't have time to actually talk to a patient for 20, 30 minutes and discuss with them about, how many times did you go to CVS or any pharmacy and go to the, pick up your medication and actually talk to the pharmacist.
Never.
So what am I really doing working there? Because I'm really not helping people. Also, out of school, don't get me wrong, out of school, CVS is the highest paid job to get as a pharmacist. But then you're stuck. So that's what I was saying earlier. You're stuck for a couple of years, whatever it is.
Plateau at that same rate.
It's just, it doesn't plateau at the same rate, but it doesn't go up as big as, there's the ladder is between the first step and the second step. The ladder, the space is way
smaller than it could be in other places.
The space is too big between the two steps.
Yeah.
Compared to big pharma, where you can move between different positions quicker and build your way up.
And doing that too, like you're at the source, like at that. Like that's where you can make the biggest impact, right? Because that's where things come from, right?
I would like to think so, but also, I would like to think that I'm going to make an impact after I make, my jump to wherever I want to be in the future.
Yeah, outside of that.
I mean, my long-term goal is the startup. So Scriptify is my long-term goal. Genomics is my long-term goal. Both of these things, I don't want to say go against big pharma, but definitely go against BBMs. And that's who I really want to go against, because there's no need for them to make billions of dollars just for negotiating prices.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else? I like the farm. A lot of this shit just like goes way over my head, to be honest.
Yeah.
But,
like, what do your peers at like in pharmacy school think of you like going out like to a big pharma, like a big pharma company? Are most kids, are they kind of going into these CVS roles and just content with that, or is what you're doing like pretty widely accepted?
It all depends on the person. No, but big pharma positions, industry positions, is those in residency are the most desired, just because you're actually doing something. But it all depends what you're looking for in the job that you're getting after graduation, right? So if you're looking for stability, no travel, whether stay local or making money right after graduation to pay off your loans. So a lot of people just decide to go into community pharmacy to pay off their loans and then move to industry, which is big pharma. But at the same time, it's really not that easy to make that jump. A lot of people have struggled making that jump. It's also, you're at a level where you start in big pharma or industry positions overall at a lower rate compared to retail pharmacies. Now, once you set yourself, I mean, I'm starting to learn the real value of money now that, post graduation. So once you start at a 6-figure salary, you can go down to 5 after 5-6 years. You paid off a chunk of your loans, and then now you want to move to industry. It's just tough restricting yourself from spending, things like that, especially at people our age, especially nowadays where the prices are through the roof.
It's hard to like kind of accept a certain lifestyle and then have to have a downgrade in that. Like,
Exactly.
Not
Not many
many family
people.
or anything. Like there's so many things. You're getting older.
Exactly.
So it's like
6 years from now,
Yeah.
I might be with kids. You never know. And at that point, I'm not only controlling my finances, I have to control theirs. And I don't want to be in a position where I have to choose between my career or my kids. And that's why, I don't know. But I mean, don't get me wrong, if I ever do work for a CVS or Walgreens, I wouldn't mind doing it. It's just I would want to be on the corporate side of things.
like so.
Yeah.
Because that's where really
That's where you make. That's where your decision.
that's where you really make the money and make decisions.
Yeah.
Your decision maker, and it's not the monotonous task of just kind of counting out pills.
Was there anyone too, like kind of the inverse of what Jack asked? It's like that has done this like in the hospitality space and also, juggled the pharmaceutical and like a very serious industry as well that you've learned from or looked up to or talked to.
Somebody in the pharmacy, I don't know anybody that went to
No?
school, to be honest with you, in pharmacy school with me and did it. I know a lot of people that did they did school overall
Uh-huh.
and did it. And
But not
they've-
not this space.
not this space, no. But I have it's some of my good friends, they went to school, they did their events,
Sure.
and they had amazing events all year long. And we just graduated together this last May. One of my friends, Alejandro, he had amazing events all year long. He just graduated last May, but he wasn't really pharmacy, so I can't really relate to what he did.
Throughout your career, do you see yourself continuing Uncle Juba, continuing everything, the events and everything?
I built myself the brand, the name. I still haven't decided if I want to continue it fully, but I would love to have my own space sometime. Not necessarily a nightclub, but I would love to have my own space down the line. But we'll see. We'll see where life takes me.
Do you ever I've thought of a couple more, but do you ever think the kids in your pharmacy program, do you ever rub them the wrong way when you're wearing like a Miri sneakers right now that probably cost more than their textbooks?
No, not really. I mean, there's a lot of people at my school that wear designers at the same time. You know what I mean? A lot of people in my school were dressed nicely, and I don't think I rub them off the wrong way. Mainly because the people who know me, they know I worked for these. I paid for these. They weren't just handed to me. Those were actually gifts, but
So they were handed to you. I'm kidding.
You earned them.
I did.
But
And one thing I would like to say earlier, you asked me if there's something I would like to say. I honestly would not have been able to do it without my support system, my friends. Pisses me off when I see people posting, "Oh, there's no real friends, this and that," or they talk shit. Get new ones. Your friends are not there for you. Get new ones, because I don't know what people are talking about. My friends were the ones calling me at 6 a.m. They were waking up with me, calling me at 6 a.m., making sure I'm up to go to work. You know what I mean? So it's just having that support system means a lot.
no, I think
and-
having people in your corner and people to hold you accountable is really important.
Absolutely. And it's just at that point, those are the people you do not want to let down. Because at that point, I'm just not letting myself down, but I'm letting them down because they believed in me. And that's where it really pushed me to, juggle both.
Yeah, and when you finally do it and you finally, cross that finish line, or even just like check one of those boxes of an achievement of finishing school or whatever it is, they're gonna be like the most happy for you. They're gonna, because they know they were, you know, a part of
Absolutely,
the
they were
ride.
there with me from the start. They
Yeah.
know exactly what I went through. I know exactly what they went through with me,
Yeah,
especially my family, and those I couldn't be more thankful for, and I can't even pay them back if I wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a
yeah, I think
pretty
that's
good
great.
stopping point.
That's a good shout out to all the homies. Shout out to the friends, the family.
Shout out to all of them. Appreciate you guys all.
Thank you, Juba.
Thank you guys for having me.
This is great.
Appreciate you.